The area known as the Yorkshire Dales became a national park in 1954. It covers 1,762 square kilometres, that's 680 square miles. The park's job is to protect the area's unique rural landscapes and heritage. The countryside here is made up of great river valleys, the Dales, surrounded by high moorland known locally as fells. The view over the gate in this hole in the wall is one of the most glorious in the whole of Yorkshire. It seems to sum up the essence of the Yorkshire Dales. It is Bolton Abbey. The ruins of a medieval priory, the river Wharfe snaking its way around them, and it's all set against a backdrop of the fells. That's what they call the moorlands around here. Fells that turn purple with heather in the summer. It's the perfect place to come for a short, easy stroll, or indeed for a longer, tougher walk at any time of the year. In the early 16th century, England was a Catholic country. Religious houses like these owed their spiritual allegiance to the Pope. But that was the same Pope who refused to grant the King, Henry VIII, a divorce from his wife Catherine of Aragon, so he could marry Anne Boleyn in the hope of securing a son and the succession. Well, Henry's solution was quite simple. He declared himself head of the church in England, and for good measure, he dissolved these monasteries and helped himself to their lands and to their wealth. Augustinian friars first arrived in this place in the year 1153. They came to found their abbey, and they came for rather more practical reasons than today's visitors who just want to sample and feel the beauty of this wonderful place. Those friars, they wanted a sheltered spot, they wanted access to water, and above all, they wanted plenty of land on which to graze their sheep. Those sheep produced fleeces which would be sold into northern Europe, and they produced a big profit, enough money to enable the friars to build their magnificent abbey. If Henry VIII was so intent on smashing up the monasteries, how come the nave here at Bolton Priory survives? Well, that's down to people power. When the monasteries were dissolved, they said, look, the nearest church for us is in Skipton, that's 12 miles away, far too far to walk. So they were granted permission to convert the nave for worship, and it's still a parish church today. There's one special feature here that must be visited. It's in the Strig Wood. The full river here is channeled through this 6-foot wide chasm, and it's about 20 foot deep. It may not look far across, but if you slip, it means almost certain death, as it did for a medieval lad called Egremont. His mother gave the lands round here to the monks in his memory. We may be in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales National Park, but the 80 or so square miles around here is owned by the Duke of Devonshire, as it has been by his predecessors since 1753. And it's now the Bolton Abbey estate which actually looks after the farmland, the paths, the rivers, and all this abundant environment for wildlife. There are a couple of historic buildings round here which are worth seeing. This is Barden Tower. Now, it's a hunting lodge built in the 12th century, but in 1485 it became the home of Sir Henry Clifford. Now, he was known as the Shepherd Lord because he came here to hide away from the enemies his father had made during the Wars of the Roses. Now, you could easily miss this place. We're in the tiny hamlet of Beamsley, just off the A59 Harrogate to Skipton Road. And what we have here is a circular almshouse with 6 rooms radiating off it. That was all built by Lady Anne Clifford in 1593. So now we're going to move on from the Bolton Abbey estate at the southern end of the Dales, further up Wharfedale, and then on to visit the rest of Yorkshire's Great Dales. As we travel further north, the stone turns from millstone grit to limestone, from which the local buildings and the miles of dry stone walls get their distinctive character. Grassington is one of the most well-known villages in the Dales. It attracts visitors from a wide area. They come here to wander its roughly cobbled streets or to walk down by the river. There are many tempting walks around here. On the moors above the village can be found old lead mines, and if you come here in winter when the foliage has died back, you can pick out Iron Age settlements. One of the major features is Kilnsea Crag. It's 170 foot high with a 30-foot overhang. It's a mecca for climbers. An agricultural show is held here every August. Local farmers come to cash up, while runners try to outdo one another, running up and down the treacherous slopes and gullies on the crag. At one side of the crag there's this wonderful green track, Mastiles Lane. It crosses the moor to Malham. It comes out by Malham Tarn, the inspiration for Charles Kingsley's The Water Babies. Just a short distance away you come to one of the most dramatic features in the Dales, Malham Cove, a huge 300-foot high, 1,000-foot wide amphitheatre. Here the water percolates through the rock to find its way down to harder bedrock. It's the source of the River Ure. Energetic people climb the 400 steps to the top to see the limestone pavement, blocks of limestone where water has dissolved the rock away on weak fissures. In the far distance can be seen the market town of Skipton, just on the edge of the national park. It lies at the bottom of Rombold's Moor in a vale between the Wharfe and the Ure valleys. This strategic position made it an ideal place to build a castle. The castle became the stronghold of the Clifford family, who developed Skipton as a market town to serve the district. In the adjacent parish church you can see the Clifford family tombs. The town's trade developed in the 18th century when the building of the Leeds-Liverpool Canal brought cheap coal to fuel the first cotton mills. Skipton is still very much a market town, with stalls lining the high street 4 days a week, and a weekly auction mart where the Dales farmers bring their sheep. It's mostly marginal upland sheep farming in the Dales, with all the towns and villages in the valley bottoms. Towns like Settle, with its oddly named Ye Old Naked Man Cafe and Bakery, and the Shambles, an arcaded row of butchers' shops. Look out for a large house called the Folly. When it was built in 1679, local people thought it folly to build such a large house. They weren't wrong. The builder, the wealthy merchant Richard Preston, went bankrupt. It's now the Museum of North Craven Life. Settle is the start of the rail line that crosses the Dales to Carlisle, 72 miles to the north. Built in 1876 as a rival to the west coastline to Scotland, it was a major feat of construction, requiring 14 tunnels and 20 viaducts, including the 24-arched Ribble Head viaduct across a bog. Along its route from Settle, it passes the three peaks of Pennygent, Ingleborough and Whernside. Each peak is over 2,000 feet high, and it forms a challenge to those who hope to complete the 24-mile walk in under 12 hours. Although, if you're here on the last Sunday in April, you'll see the winning fell runner completing it in a time of around 2 hours 45 minutes. From here, a minor road carries you over to Wensleydale, at the head of which dale is Hawes, a small market town where a weekly livestock market takes place and where Wensleydale cheese is manufactured. Unusually, Wensleydale is the only dale not to be named after its river, the river here being the River Ure. Across the river from Hawes lies the hamlet of Hardraw, famous for its 100-foot waterfall. Every September, a brass band concert is held here. From Hardraw, a steep road climbs over Buttertub's Pass, so called as farmers would lower unsold dairy products from Hawes Market into the chasm to keep them cool until the following week. This is Swaledale, the most northerly of Yorkshire's dales and the most remote. There are no major towns along the dale, although there are 4 villages at its head: Keld, Angram, Thwaite and Mucor. This dale is much quieter than it used to be when lead was mined up on the moors. Now the people who come here come to walk, cycle or ride horses. We cross from Swaledale back into Wensleydale to visit Castle Bolton. Built in 1378 for the Scrope family, it was later turned into a private residence, but it is now open to visitors. Across the river is West Witton, where a curious custom is enacted every August. The effigy of Bartle, thought to be St. Bartholomew as it's held on the Saturday nearest to his feast day, is carried door to door soliciting drinks. But at the end of the village, the body is dumped and set alight. The next village is Wensley, the village that gives the dale its name. You'd perhaps expect it to be a busy market town, but when the plague hit the area in 1563, the market was transferred to Leyburn, a mile further up the hill, and there it remains. Leyburn is the home of the Wensleydale Railway that has opened up 17 miles of track from Leeming Bar to Redmire, close by Castle Bolton. The track at one time ran 40 miles from Northallerton all the way to Garsdale at the top of Wensleydale. There are those who still hope this will be achieved one day. Lastly, we come to Middleham with its spectacular castle. King Richard III, then the Duke of Gloucester, lived here in the 1460s as a boy, and it's thought that the Middleham jewel, a 15th century gold pendant found here in 1985, would in all likelihood have been owned by royalty. A replica of the pendant is displayed in the church. Today, the village is a centre for horse breeding and racehorse training.